Hello, English learners. Welcome back to another great lesson here at English Pod. My name is Marco.
And I'm Erica.
And today we are going to have a lesson that is going to be very useful when you arrive late.
Yes, well, we all have arrived late to something, and we need a good way of saying sorry and saying why we were late.
So today we're not only going to be looking at vocabulary used to explain why you are late, but also some typical excuses of why people are late.
Right, so some normal reasons for saying why you're late. Well, why don't we get started with the dialogue? Now, we're going to hear 5 people in the dialogue. So at the beginning, we'll hear the boss and the assistant, and then we'll hear 3 people who are arriving late.
Where's everyone? We were supposed to start 15 minutes ago.
Jo called and said she'd be here in a sec. She said she got tied up with a client.
Sorry I'm late, everyone. Oh, there was a huge traffic jam on the highway this morning.
Morning, everyone. Were you stuck in traffic as well, Jess? There was a huge pileup on the highway, and traffic was backed up for miles.
Scott just called and said that he's running late. His last meeting ran over, but he's on his way now.
Guys, this is not acceptable. If I say the meeting starts at 10, the meeting starts at 10, not 10:01, and definitely not 10:20. All right, let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is
I'm really sorry, everyone. I know I'm late, but really, it's not my fault. I was getting a coffee at Starbucks, and the line was way too long. I was waiting for 20 minutes to get my coffee.
All right, so, good excuses in general, except the last one. I don't think that's such a good excuse of why you're late, right?
Yeah, I don't really think if I was the boss, I would be very happy with this employee.
Yeah, I don't think coffee is that important.
But some of the excuses were good, and some of the language they used to describe the excuses was really great. So let's look at that now in Language Takeaway.
Language takeaway.
All right, on Language Takeaway today, we have 4 words that we're going to be looking at. And let's get started with the first one. So Jo called the office assistant and explained that she will be late because she got tied up with a client.
To get tied up.
So I got tied up with a client.
All right, this is a really common reason for being late, but why don't we listen to some examples to help us understand what it means?
Example 1.
Sorry I'm late, honey. I got tied up at the office.
Example 2.
I was tied up on the phone all afternoon and didn't get any work done.
Example 3.
I got tied up in traffic on the way here.
All right, so if you get tied up, it means that you get busy with something that you can't avoid.
Right, you're busy with something that's so important, it's like you are tied by a rope to that thing.
Okay, I got tied up. I'm sorry, I got tied up.
Yep.
All right, now, the first person that arrived to the office explained that there was a huge traffic jam on the highway.
A traffic jam.
A traffic jam.
A huge traffic jam.
Now, we understand traffic, right? Mm-hmm. Cars, a lot of cars.
Yep.
So a jam, it means that it was blocked.
It was stopped.
It was stopped.
Yep.
There were a lot of cars on the highway and they weren't moving.
So a huge traffic jam is a very big stopping of cars.
Now, our next word explains why sometimes there is a traffic jam.
Well, we found out that there was a huge pileup.
A pileup.
A huge pileup.
Okay, a huge pileup. Now, if a pileup is another way of saying an accident, right?
Yeah, an accident with many cars and they all get piled on top of each other.
All right, so many cars got into an accident.
Yep.
So this could be a reason of why there was a traffic jam.
And also a reason for why you were late.
Right. Now, the other person, Scott, also called and he said that he's running late.
He's running late.
He's running late.
I'm running late.
Now, if I'm running late, am I actually running somewhere? What am I doing? What's happening?
You are going to be late, and you know you're going to be late.
Okay, I know I'm going to be late. So I'll call you and I'll say, hey, I'm running a little bit late.
Yeah, actually, this is the most common thing I say when I'm going to be late. And I think it's really important to know how to use this phrase. So let's hear some more examples.
Example 1.
Jane is running late. She'll be here in 10 minutes.
Example 2.
Traffic is really bad, so I'm running late.
Example 3.
I'm running a bit late, so please start without me.
All right, perfect. So running late, a very common way of explaining that you're going to be late, and well, it makes you sound very native.
Yeah, it's a great phrase. Now, our last phrase, what we heard, the reason why Scott was running late was because his last meeting ran over.
Okay, to run over.
My meeting ran over.
Now, ran over, my meeting ran over. It means it went too far?
Well, when something runs over, it goes longer.
Okay, longer than expected.
Yeah, so a meeting can run over, or an appointment can run over.
So I can say, my meeting ran over 15 minutes. I'm going to be a little bit late.
That's right, a great excuse.
Very good. 5 great words. And well, I think it's time for us to listen to this dialogue and understand these words as they were used in the dialogue. And then we'll come back and take a look at more phrases.
Where is everyone? We were supposed to start 15 minutes ago.
Jo called and said she'd be here in a sec. She said she got tied up with a client.
Sorry I'm late, everyone. There was a huge traffic jam on the highway this morning.
Morning, everyone. Were you stuck in traffic as well, Jess? There was a huge pileup on the highway, and traffic was backed up for miles.
Scott just called and said that he's running late. His last meeting ran over, but he's on his way now.
Guys, this is not acceptable. If I say the meeting starts at 10, the meeting starts at 10, not 10:01, and definitely not 10:20. All right, let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is
I'm really sorry, everyone. I know I'm late, but really it's not my fault. I was getting a coffee at Starbucks, and the line was way too long. I was waiting for 20 minutes to get my coffee.
Okay, we got some more great phrases for describing being late. Let's look at them now in Fluency Builder.
Fluency Builder.
When Jo called, she said she'd be there in a sec.
I'll be here in a sec.
I'll be here in a sec.
So when someone will be here in a sec, it means they'll be here very soon, right?
Okay, I'll be here in a sec. I'll be there in a sec.
But what about this word sec?
It's a short way of saying second.
So S-E-C.
A sec. Now, it's an exaggeration, obviously, because you won't be there in 1 second, but you're just explaining that you'll be there very, very soon.
What about the difference between I'll be here in a sec and I'll be here in a minute?
Well, if you say I'll be there in a sec, it means like I'll be there in 1 minute, right? But if you say, oh, I'll be there in a minute, it could be a minute or more like 3 or 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Now, again, going back to this traffic issue, we saw that somebody was stuck in traffic.
To be stuck in traffic.
I got stuck in traffic.
Now, when you're stuck in traffic, you can't drive because there are too many cars stopped on the highway.
So you are actually in the traffic jam.
Yeah, you're stopped there for like 20 minutes. You can't move.
Okay, I'm stuck in traffic. I'm going to be late.
Really great excuse. And the reason they were stuck in traffic was because traffic was backed up for miles.
Okay, traffic is backed up for miles.
To be backed up for miles.
Now, if I say the traffic is backed up for miles, it means that it's very long, or how does that work?
Well, okay, imagine there is an accident and that has caused a traffic jam and the cars are lined up for many miles behind you.
Okay, so it's backed up. From that point, there are many miles of cars waiting to pass.
Yep. So it's backed up for miles.
Very good. So great phrases. And I think it's appropriate for us to listen to the dialogue for the very last time. And then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about this being on time issue.
Where is everyone? We were supposed to start 15 minutes ago.
Joe called and said she'd be here in a sec. She said she got tied up with a client.
Sorry I'm late, everyone. Oh, there was a huge traffic jam on the highway this morning.
Morning, everyone. Were you stuck in traffic as well, Jess? There was a huge pileup on the highway, and traffic was backed up for miles.
Scott just called and said that he's running late. His last meeting ran over, but he's on his way now.
Guys, this is not acceptable. If I say the meeting starts at 10, the meeting starts at 10, not 10:01, and definitely not 10:20. All right, let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about
I'm
is
really sorry, everyone. I know I'm late, but really, it's not my fault. I was getting a coffee at Starbucks, and the line was way too long. I was waiting for 20 minutes to get my coffee.
Well, Marco, I know that ideas about time and ideas about being late are different in different countries.
Yeah, in different countries, people treat time or being on time in different ways.
Yeah, like I'm from Canada and I look at being on time really different than you do, right?
Yes, because for example, if you call for a meeting at 9 o'clock,
Yep.
usually people will be there at 9 o'clock because the meeting will start.
In America.
Right, in America. Now, for example, in Latin America, we do have this, what we call sometimes the Latino time or Hispanic time, which is like 9 o'clock is like the time that everyone should be there, but until people get there, get their coffee and whatever, then it'll be 9:15, maybe up to 9:30.
And I think it's a little bit even more noticeable when we're talking about social events. Like if you go to someone's house for dinner, in Canada, if they say, come to my house at 6 o'clock for dinner, you'll be there at 6:05, right?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, usually you'll be there only a couple of minutes after the time that was specified, just to, give the house owner a little bit of time.
Yep.
But if we have a dinner invitation for 6, we know that it's not really going to begin eating at 6, so people will get there at 6:30 or 7. And of course, food isn't ready until like maybe 8 or 9.
But in German countries, from what I know, you've got to be if they say be there at 6, you're there at 6:00, right? Not 6:01.
And also, I think it's about when people start work, right?
Yeah.
How on time you have to begin work. Sometimes it's acceptable to be 10 or 15 minutes so-called late, but in other places,
Yeah, North America, if you're supposed to start work at 9, you have to be at your desk working at 9.
At 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, see that in other countries, people get there at 9, get their coffee, maybe take a quick glance at their emails
Yeah.
or the newspaper, and then, start working at around 9:30 or 10.
So I guess the important thing is to know what the tradition is in the country where you are.
Across the globe, the simple question, what time is it, can provoke very different reactions. In some cultures, a watch's second hand seems to tick louder. In others, clocks feel more like suggestions than strict mandates. Punctuality is more than a habit. It reflects a society's relationship with time itself, its values around respect, efficiency, and personal relationships. In North America, arriving precisely on the hour signals reliability and professionalism. In much of Europe, attitudes range from the almost military precision of northern capitals to a more relaxed latitude in the Mediterranean. In Latin America, deferred schedules often trump rigid agendas, while in parts of Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, flexible event time governs much social interaction. Understanding these divergent time cultures is the first step toward authentic, respectful communication across borders. In the United States and Canada, time is money. Appointments and deadlines are sacrosanct, enforced by corporate policies and social norms alike. A business meeting that begins at 9 a.m. starts at 9:00 a.m. The extra cup of coffee or the final glance at email must be squeezed into the 15-minute grace period before 8:45, after which one risks a reprimand or the quiet frustration of colleagues. This monochronic approach, focusing on one task at a time, scheduling back-to-back engagements, and treating promptness as a sign of respect, reinforces a worldview in which efficiency and individual responsibility reign. Latecomers rarely arrive unremarked, and a missed deadline can mean lost revenue, damaged reputations, or formal complaints. Crossing the border into Northern Europe, one often encounters a similar rigor. In Germany, Switzerland, and the Netherlands, trains depart exactly on schedule. Factories begin shifts with the precision of clockwork, and dinner reservations at Michelin-starred restaurants are honored to the minute. The social contract demands that if a meeting is set for 14:30, Participants will be waiting at 14:29, under penalty of raised eyebrows, a terse Guten Tag, and a swift restart of the agenda. Privacy, punctuality, and planning are woven into the cultural fabric, so rigid is the link between time and trust. Heading south, however, one finds a gentler cadence. In Italy's villages, a gathering at 2000 hours may stretch toward 2030 before anyone thinks of starting the meal. In Spain, L'Hora Española tolerates half-hour or even hour-long delays at social events. Arriving precisely on time might be considered odd or unfriendly. France straddles these poles. Parisian businesspeople expect punctuality in boardrooms, yet in Provence the local boulangerie might not open until 9 o'clock, regardless of advertised hours. Here, time is a tool to be shaped around life's pleasures. Long lunches, spontaneous conversations, and the art of conversation itself. Latin America offers its own time horizon, often called La Hora Latina. In Mexico City, Rio de Janeiro, or Buenos Aires, invitations to dinner at 1900 hours become a rolling start at 1930 or even 20:00. Social relationships trump the clock. Arriving early can leave hosts unprepared, and a rigid adherence to schedules may be read as impatience or even arrogance. Work deadlines still loom, but personal lags, family emergencies, unplanned celebrations, the unpredictable traffic of megacities, permit a latitude of tardiness. It's not uncommon for a meeting to begin when all key attendees finally amble in with apologies and a ready smile. Further east, one finds even more variety. In the Middle East, flexible schedules accommodate impromptu family visits, extended greetings, and religious observances. A 9 a.m. appointment in Dubai may not stir much alarm if it slides to 9:15 or 9:30, so long as the caller phones ahead with a courteous excuse. In India, IST, Indian Stretchable Time, reigns. Weddings advertised for 3 p.m. will not begin until the guests have finished chai and gossip, often well past the stated hour. Yet in Japan and South Korea, scheduling commands the same near-military precision as Northern Europe. A Tokyo subway train pulls into the station at exactly 7:48. Doors open, then close after precisely 18 seconds, and anyone boarding at 7:49 finds themselves heading to the wrong platform. In sub-Saharan Africa, patterns shift once more. In bustling Lagos or Nairobi, traffic snarls reduce the significance of an on-the-dot meeting time. Colleagues build in generous buffers, knowing that the journey is as unpredictable as the destination. Rural villages may measure time in sunrises, church bells, or the crack of dawn, where obligations to community and ceremony outstrip the ivory tower abstractions of mechanical clocks. As anthropologist D.T. Hall called it, polychronic cultures juggle people, tasks, and priorities fluidly, with little sense of calendar tyranny. Yet even within these broad strokes lie countless nuances. A young professional in Sao Paulo may impose German-style punctuality in corporate dealings, while an older manager in Munich might expect a 10-minute grace period in social contexts. Expats learn to toggle between their home culture's clock-driven discipline and their host society's more elastic tempo. In global virtual teams, meetings convene by agreement on Western time or Eastern time, but inevitably some participants join in the wee hours, and tardiness by others can strain both bandwidth and goodwill. Ultimately, cross-cultural competence in time management requires more than mastering clock conversions. It demands an awareness of the values underpinning each society's approach. The high-context emphasis on relationships in Latin America, the low-context focus on task completion in Northern Europe, the blend of ritual and modernity in parts of Asia, or the communal priorities that guide many African and Middle Eastern communities. By recognizing that a tardy arrival can be read as rudeness in one setting and as respectful prioritization in another, we equip ourselves to navigate meetings, meals, and friendships with sensitivity. As we prepare to delve into authentic expressions that accompany these cultural norms, phrases like, "I'm running late," "I got tied up," or 17 minutes past, we carry forward the central insight of this exploration. Time is a social contract, not merely a mechanical measurement. A minute in minutes-obsessed Munich may mean precisely 60 seconds, while in Mexico City it may stretch to encompass conversations, laughter, and the final sip of café con leche. Recognizing these differences is the key to both professional success and personal harmony in our interconnected world. Arriving late to an engagement inevitably requires more than simply acknowledging the time lost. It demands an apology and an explanation framed in a way that feels genuine to our own cultural instincts, yet respectful of our interlocutor's expectations. Drawing on the lessons of North American directness, European formality, and East Asian subtlety. A third step in mastering lateness is learning to blend apology strategies so that they ring true on both sides of the Pacific, the Atlantic, and everywhere in between. When a Canadian executive realizes she has overslept, she might pick up the phone at 9:05 and say, "Good morning, Mark, this is Sandra. I'm so sorry I'm running late today. My alarm failed me, and I won't make our 9:00 a.m. start. I'll be at your office by 9:20 at the latest. Thank you for understanding." Notice how she begins with a clear self-identification and apology, follows with a concise explanation, offers a new commitment by 9:20, and closes with appreciation. In much of North America, this direct approach, owning the mistake, stating the reason bluntly, and specifying a recovery plan, communicates accountability and respect for the other person's time. In London, a project manager forced by a broken tube to miss a 1400 hours meeting might dial into the conference line at 14:07, pause politely for a greeting, then say, "I must apologize for my delay. There was an unforeseen signal failure on the district line, and I could not arrive as planned. If you'll allow me 5 minutes to catch up, I will be fully briefed and ready to proceed. Thank you for your patience." The British style maintains a formal polish. "I must apologize" rather than "I'm sorry, unforeseen signal failure," instead of "the train broke down," and "thank you for your patience" as a courteous close. The tone conveys regret without overemphasis, explanation without defensiveness, and an implicit respect for the meeting's cadence. Contrast both with a Tokyo consultant who finishes a project delivery at 10 o'clock but discovers he's already 2 minutes late for an 11 o'clock client call. He picks up his mobile, bows his head slightly in deference, and begins in a quiet, measured voice, "Matsuda here. I humbly apologize for arriving late this morning. I was caught in unexpected traffic due to road maintenance. Please forgive my carelessness. I deeply appreciate your understanding, and I will ensure our agenda begins without further delay." Notice the layering of apology, humbly apologize, forgive my carelessness. The indirectness of unexpected traffic, rather than an explicit "I was stuck in traffic," and the emphasis on deference, deeply appreciate your understanding. In many East Asian contexts, excess bluntness can be read as rudeness, while self-deprecation affirms humility and preserves harmony. Between these poles lies the global traveler's challenge, choosing words that feel authentic, yet align with local expectations. If an American finds herself apologizing in Tokyo, she might temper her direct, "I'm sorry, the meeting ran over" with an additional phrase, "I deeply appreciate your patience," to signal deference. A Japanese visitor in Toronto might soften her "I humbly apologize" to "I'm terribly sorry," and follow with a concrete recovery plan, "I'll be there by 2:15, so that colleagues understand both her regret and her capacity to make amends. Beyond words, tone and body language matter. In high-context cultures, a sincere bow or an integrated moment of silence before speaking can communicate respect more powerfully than any phrase. In low-context settings, a brisk, upright posture and direct eye contact underscore credibility and urgency. The latecomer who pauses the meeting agenda briefly, distributes a revised schedule, and jumps into the material without lingering on the apology demonstrates respect for everyone's time, while still acknowledging the disruption. Ultimately, authentic expression of lateness weaves together 3 strands: honest self-disclosure, "I was delayed by," culturally attuned apology, "I apologize" versus "I must apologize" versus "I humbly apologize," and a concrete plan to move forward, "I will arrive by X. Let's reschedule to Y," or "I'll send my notes by Z." Whether you are navigating the North American rush, the European equilibrium, Latin American warmth, or East Asian harmony, selecting the right balance of directness and deference, explanation and brevity, apology and appreciation will turn a moment of tardiness into an opportunity to demonstrate emotional intelligence and cross-cultural savvy. Across these global variations, one principle remains constant. Lateness need not erode trust if handled with speed, clarity, and respect. In fact, a thoughtfully crafted apology can even strengthen relationships, showing that you honor others' schedules as much as your own. Mastering these strategies frees us to attend not only to the clock on the wall, but to the shared human rhythms beyond it, transforming every "I'm late" into "I value your time," without losing our authentic voice, no matter where in the world we find ourselves. When schedules collide across borders, the simple act of arriving late can morph from a minor faux pas into a full-blown intercultural minefield, unless we deploy polite, adaptive strategies to defuse awkwardness and restore trust. In this final section, we consider concrete scenarios in multinational settings, boardrooms, classrooms, diplomatic gatherings, where a culturally calibrated apology or explanation can turn embarrassment into an opportunity for mutual respect. Imagine a mid-morning meeting at an international NGO's Geneva office, convened to finalize urgent funding proposals. You are the lone representative from a Latin American partner, and you slip in at 10:07, 2 minutes after the scheduled start time. The Swiss project lead, meticulous, punctual, pauses the slides, raises an eyebrow. Your heart sinks. Do you stumble through a hasty "Lo siento, el tráfico estaba fatal"? Or do you deliver something more nuanced? Drawing on Swiss norms of precision and impartiality, you might say in clear, measured English, "Thank you all for beginning without me. Please accept my apologies for arriving late. An unexpected delay on the motorway held me up. May I quickly review the initial points, or shall we continue to the next agenda item?" By 1. Acknowledging the group's advance. 2. Offering a brief factual reason. 3. Seeking permission to catch up. You convey respect for their time, align with low-context Swiss expectations for brevity and precision, and demonstrate collegiality rather than passive excuses. Now contrast with a Pan-Asian seminar in Singapore, where participants from Japan, South Korea, and India convene to explore sustainable agriculture. You are the keynote speaker, and an early morning taxi strike strands you until 10 minutes before your opening slot. Stepping up to the lectern, you worry that your hurried bow and whispered, "I'm sorry I'm late," may feel brusque or insincere. Instead, you open gently. "My deepest apologies for this unexpected delay. A transport disruption disrupted my journey, and I regret any inconvenience to the session. Thank you for waiting. I hope you will find the talk worthwhile." You follow with a slight bow and launch into your slides. The blend of humility, deepest apologies, "I regret," indirectness, transport disruption disrupted my journey, and gratitude, "Thank you for waiting," resonates with high-context Asian norms, where face-saving language and group harmony take precedence. In a New York boardroom where a Japanese delegation meets American executives, the dynamic shifts. At 2:05 p.m., the Japanese VP walks in, sliding into the circle of chairs under glaring fluorescent lights. An American colleague glances at her watch and then back to the group. Here, a succinct, self-effacing apology coupled with immediate engagement reigns in tension. "Thank you all for waiting. I apologize for the delay. An unforeseen traffic bottleneck kept me longer than expected. I value your time and am ready to proceed." This acknowledges American preference for direct admission of responsibility. "I apologize for the delay." Offers a concrete cause and immediately redirects attention to business. Importantly, there is no excessive politeness that might dilute the message. In the U.S., a straightforward "I apologize" earns more credit than indirect understatement. Let's consider a university lecture hall in London, where an exchange student from Brazil arrives breathless 5 minutes late, flustered by winding tube lines. Peering sheepishly at the professor, she mutters, "I'm sorry I'm late," then attempts in careful received pronunciation. "A signal failure on the northern line detained me unexpectedly." The professor, discreetly checking his watch, offers a genial nod. The student continues, "I understand this meeting started promptly at 9 a.m. Thank you for letting me join now. Could I quickly clarify the reading assignment before we begin?" This balances British reserve, "Signal failure detained me unexpectedly. Understand this meeting started promptly," with warmth and gratitude, "Thank you for letting me join now," and a constructive follow-on request. By framing the apology in formal language and seeking permission to catch up, She preserves both her dignity and the group's rhythm. In every case, the successful latecomer blends three elements: an immediate, sincere apology that matches local directness or deference, a concise, factual explanation that avoids emotional overstatement or hollow excuse, a constructive invitation to re-engage, whether by asking to replay key points, shifting the agenda, or offering to follow up with materials. When Allison, a Canadian marketing manager, crashes an interregional video call hosted in Seoul at 10:10 sharp Japan time, she anticipates stiff formality. Rather than saying, "Sorry I'm late. I got stuck in traffic," she adapts. "Good morning, everyone. I sincerely apologize for joining a few minutes late. A road incident delayed me en route. May I review the last slide that I missed?" The words "sincerely apologize" elevate the tone. Road incident depersonalizes the cause, and the question softens the interruption with respect for process. Contrast that with Matteo, an Italian consultant who enters a 1400 hours conference in Berlin at 14:05.
Spotting cold Stares, hedi klares vis a halfsmile. Entschuldigen Sie bitte, ich bin leider 5 Minuten später. Der Verkehr war schrecklich.
Excuse me. I'm unfortunately 5 minutes late. The traffic was terrible.
He swiftly adds, lassen Sie mich kurz zusammenfassen, was ich über die ersten Punkte gesagt habe. Terebi demonstrating accountability and moving the meeting forward.
Though his phraseology is direct, it fits German expectations: brief, factual, and solution-oriented. In global virtual teams, lateness becomes more complex. Digital flurries of dropped connections, rebooting, or Wi-Fi instability can ring hollow. The most effective remote apologies echo those in-person strategies. "My apologies for the tech delay. My laptop's update installed unexpectedly. I'll send my slides immediately. And would you like me to recapitulate the opening remarks?" Acknowledging the glitch, specifying its nature, laptop update, and offering to redeliver missing content bring order to screen chaos. Across every continent and conference table, these cross-cultural skills transform a universal stumbling block lateness into an occasion for demonstrating intercultural emotional intelligence. Whether by invoking Swiss precision, East Asian modesty, British formality, or American directness, speakers can craft apologies that honor both personal authenticity and their listeners' expectations. By combining clear self-disclosure, culturally attuned language, and a focus on collective progress, we not only resolve the embarrassment of tardiness, but also reinforce the very trust that punctuality symbolizes. In the end, arriving late need not derail a gathering. When handled with respect and strategic communication, it becomes another bridge in our global dialogue, rather than a barrier between us.
The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. The quality of always being on time.
Punctual.
Blocked, so you can't move forward.
Backed up.
Later than planned, late.
Behind schedule.
Sleep later than planned.
Sleep.
Become busy, unable to leave.
Got tied up.
The quality of often being late.
Tardiness.
Move very quickly.
Hustle.
Going to be late.
Running late.
To go beyond a limit.
Ran over.
So make cars on the road that you cannot drive or move forward.
Stuck in traffic.
Soon.
In a sec.
Very big.
Huge.
A lot of cars stopped from moving.
Traffic jam.
An accident where many cars crash into each other.
Pile up.
Let's try that faster. Going to be late.
Running late.
Soon.
In a sec.
Move very quickly.
Hustle.
Sleep later than planned.
Sleep.
To go beyond a limit.
Ran over.
Become busy. Unable to leave.
Got tied up.
The quality of often being late.
Tardiness.
An accident where many cars crash into each other.
Pile up.
Blocked so you can't move forward.
Backed up.
The quality of always being on time.
Punctual.
Later than planned. Late.
Behind schedule.
A lot of cars stopped from moving.
Traffic jam.
Very big.
Huge.
So many cars on the road that you cannot drive or move forward.
Stuck in traffic.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Stuck in traffic. Hello, Daniel. It's me. Listen, I'm going to be late today because I'm stuck in traffic. Stuck in traffic. We should leave early this morning or else we'll get stuck in traffic. Stuck in traffic. We should have taken the other highway. Now we'll be stuck in traffic for at least an hour. Ran over. The meeting ran over by more than 30 minutes. Ran over. I always leave an extra 15 minutes in my schedule, just in case meetings run over a bit. Ran over. Frank always forgets about the time and runs over the time limit of his presentations. Running late. Jane is running late. She'll be here in 10 minutes. Running late. Traffic is really bad, so I'm running late. Running late. I'm running a bit late, so please start without me. Got tied up. Sorry I'm late, honey. I got tied up at the office. Got tied up. I was tied up on the phone all afternoon and didn't get any work done. Got tied up. I got tied up in traffic on the way here. The accident backed up traffic for miles. Don't take the 405 freeway today. There was an accident, so there are cars backed up for miles. Our highway system is very inefficient. Traffic is backed up for miles every morning.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode and gained some new insights. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any future episodes. See you next time.